When great scientific discoveries are made, science wins. Everyone who participates in the process of discovery also wins. Rosalind Franklin, the unsung mother of the DNA, however, is an exception. She never got the recognition she deserved. She never got the accolades when she was alive. And it was only much later on that people started to know about her contribution. She was a great scientist living in London, and this was the year 1951. Just like her colleagues, she too was in search of the elusive structure of the DNA, which could give them an insight into molecular immortality. Now, she was an X ray crystallographer, and after several attempts, she could capture this image, which is called Photo 51. She beamed X-rays on the liquid crystal form of DNA and could capture this haunting image on her screen, which was indeed the clearest shot of DNA's inner architecture ever seen. The X-ray had cracked the genetic code, and it could easily be told that the structure of the DNA is in the form of a double helix coiled around itself. She had casually named it Photo 51 because her 50 attempts had failed, and she was little aware that this photograph would go on to become the most famous photograph ever taken. She also was oblivious to the fact that this would be the most famous X-ray ever taken. And she was a modest woman, so she casually put it in her office drawer, little knowing that a great deception would befall her. Her colleague, Maurice Wilkins, who was very envious of her progress and who was also working on the DNA project, he quietly took Photo 51 without her knowledge or permission and passed it on to two other scientists in Cambridge, Watson and Crick, who are eventually credited with the discovery of the double helical structure of the DNA. Now, Watson and Crick were great scientists themselves. They had decoded the structure of the DNA to a large extent already. They knew that it consisted of a ribose sugar. They also knew that there were 4 nucleotides and a phosphate group attached. What had eluded them was the three-dimensional structure of the DNA molecule. When they saw this X-ray, all their gaps ceased to exist. Their jaws dropped with astonishment because this image clearly showed the twisted double helical structure of the DNA molecule. It took them no time to put together the three-dimensional structure of the DNA and showcase it to the scientific world. They got global appreciation and rewards came flowing to them, and they were ultimately rewarded with the highest honor of the Nobel Prize in 1962. But what about Rosalind Franklin? There was no mention of Rosalind. It was a very patriarchal society where women scientists were not considered to be first-rate scientists. Her contribution was erased. Ironically, the third person in the frame is none other than Maurice Wilkins, the one who had deceived Rosalind Franklin and had taken away Photo 51 without her knowledge or permission. And as luck would have it, Rosalind Franklin herself was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, perhaps because of overexposure to the X-rays while doing her X-ray crystallography. She died in 1958. 4 years before the Nobel Prize was awarded to Watson and Crick. In those days, Nobel Prizes were not given to people posthumously, so she was deprived of that honor. While she died, she did not know that she was deceived of her discovery, nor did she realize that she was part of history itself by discovering the double helix. She was a woman who was very introverted, very reticent, and the one who never sought credit. But after her death, there were some investigative journalists who decided to get to the bottom of the story. They found out her contribution and showcased it to the world and told everyone that she is indeed a major contributor to this process and actually the real architect of the double helix. Today, the world remembers her in a very big way. There is an institute named after her, the Franklin Institute. There is a Mars rover, which is called as the Rosalind Franklin Mars rover. There are many museums in the world that have digital copies of her Photo 51. Biographies have been written on her, movies have been made, and at last, the world remembers her.